Hi everybody, welcome to today's session. Thanks for taking the time out to join me for this month's webinar. Today we'll be looking at selecting files for backup. For those of you who haven't joined before, my own name is Niall Fahy. Okay, I am the technical trainer for Mozy worldwide, so I do the internal and external training for our support departments, both here in my base of Cork in the south of Ireland and in PG in Utah. So today we're going to look at selecting files for backup, backup sets, and then the file system tab. Okay, so this is the various differences. So looking at first, what should I be backing up, and then files and things that I don't need to back up, and then also backup sets, how I can use these to your advantage to help you assist you in excluding certain files from backup. If you don't need to back up certain files, how you can do that, and then also showing the file system tab, how you can select files there and what ways you should be doing that to ensure that you are getting coverage for all the files that you want backed up. So this will be a brief slide deck, so we'll go through. It'll be about 5 to 10 minutes long. I will then go through a walkthrough of what we've covered in the slide deck, and then I will leave the last half an hour generally over to any questions you may have on the topic that we're covering here today. So just some definitions for those again who may be new to Mozy. We have two types of users available. We have desktop users and server users. So desktop users are intended to back up only desktop machines, and whereas server users can back up desktop machines, but they can also back up server operating systems. Okay, if you wish to back up network devices, so network shares or anything like that, you do need to be a server user. I'll highlight that when I go through the walkthrough of the differences you'll see in the client. There's only one difference that you'll see between the server client and the desktop client that's quite obvious, and that's just about network devices. So what files should I be selecting? Okay, so ideally we're looking at selecting your most important files and your most critical ones. So the thing I would always say is, what's most business critical for you? Being that you're all in the Mozy Pro environment, then the business critical for you is obviously work documents that are going to be, if you don't have these documents or files or presentations available to you, then you're going to be out of business temporarily until you can get them back. For home users, I would often say that their most important things are like family photos, family videos, things like that. They're probably not as the Word documents stuff that are on a home PC are probably not as important as the images and the videos that might be of birthday parties, trips away, vacations, things like that. In a business environment, important things might be for somebody like myself in training, PowerPoint presentations. So they're the most critical things that I would want to be backing up. Excel files might be specific to somebody in finance or in accounting. They might be the most common files that they have on their machine that they need to back up. I would always say that you should start with the most important files, the ones that you could absolutely not be without. That if they, as I said, if they weren't there, you would not be able to do your job, and then work back from there. Then pick out the other things that are just as that might be a bit important to you. Most often than not, now people will have maybe some music on their work laptop, as well as their home one. They may have some presentations they've done previously, but they mightn't be mission critical. Let's say that at the moment, but it's that way you should work from the most important first to your job specification. That if your laptop in the morning or your desktop machine was to go kaput, that you could restore these particular files back to your temporary laptop and continue with your job straight away, so that you have next to no downtime, because that's what we want to avoid when we're restoring. What files don't need to be selected? Well, that again is up to yourself and what you find that to be the most important files to you, and what you deem that's not exactly necessary. But ones we would say that are they're like quite obvious to avoid are things like system files, because these are backing up system files. It's no good to you. It's taking up storage space for you. You're paying for that storage. It's taking up time and bandwidth when it's transferring to us, and then you're storing them to a machine that already has these system files on them. For example, Explorer and stuff like that, or web browsers and stuff like that you might have downloaded and installed on your machine. Backing up those system files and those executables, it can be a waste of time for you, because most often than not, when you purchase a new laptop or a new desktop machine, or you get if you're lucky enough to get one from IT, chances are all those programs are going to be on there already. So there's no benefit to you backing them up. As well as that, things that you've downloaded from online, things like, maybe you've downloaded iTunes, maybe you've downloaded Chrome, Firefox, some of these other browsers, other programs that you may have downloaded from the internet, or you may have installed from a disk that you physically still have. Okay, these kind of types of files, they defeats the purpose again of using up your storage space to back them up, because you could go to the drawer next to your desk and get that physical disk and install that software again, or you could just go to Google, type in iTunes, and download the software from there. It's faster for you to download it from there. It's not using up space, or you backing it up, when you can just access it quickly and easily from online. And then non-critical files. Okay, so again, that is up to yourself to determine what's non-critical for you. I suppose from my point of view, in my job, as I said, my critical files would be PowerPoints. Non-critical files might be maybe a Word document that I'm just using to put in notes into, just to remind me of what I'm doing day to day. That's non-critical. If I lose that, it's not going to be the end of the world if I don't have the quick bullet list that I created of what I need to do next week. Okay, so things like that, things that are not going to affect your day-to-day job if you didn't have them again. They're on your machine, but you might necessarily 100% need them to be restored. They're probably things that you can quickly, easily remember yourself and reproduce very quickly. Okay, so that's what's a good idea to be backing up. Again, mission critical stuff, what you could not be without, and what you don't necessarily need to be backing up. Things like system files, programs downloaded from the internet, or from physical disks. So then we're going to look at backup sets. Okay, so what are backup sets? So backup sets are basically just containers, okay, that group specific file types together. Okay, you can select a search location. Selecting that search location, then you can create rules around this container, what you want to actually put into that container. Okay, so you know from looking at the Mozy settings window that we already have some default backup sets created for you. Things like word processing documents, your desktop, PowerPoints, Excels, and so on like that. So these are already pre-prepared ones, but you can also create your own ones that are maybe more customizable to you. Maybe there's particular file types that you want backed up, maybe particular file types that you use more regularly that we wouldn't highlight, because our backup sets are just kind of the defaults that most people would use. Okay. We can also create backup sets and use them to actually exclude or include certain file types or groupings of files. So if you wanted to, for example, you didn't want to back up any JPEGs off your machine, you can create a backup set that excludes JPEGs from your backup. So that backup set then, once it's excluded, no matter where you add a new if you add a new JPEG to anywhere on your machine that's in the search location for your backup set, it won't be picked up for backup anywhere else. And I'll show you that in the demonstration of how that looks and how that works when you do actually do an exclude. So it does lock down the file so that it can't be selected anywhere else, even in the file system tab. Okay. You can also use backup sets if you're a server user for VSS snapshots. Okay, so for anybody backing up Active Directory, Exchange, SQL Server, they will have their own VSS snapshot backup sets. Okay, they're created when we do a scan of the system, and we see that these softwares are on your server. Then we can pick them up, and these VSS backup sets are created automatically by the actual operating system itself. And using that, then we can back up those databases quickly and easily. Okay, and I'll show you some of those VSS snapshots, backup sets in a moment when we're going through the walkthrough. But it does allow you a quicker and easier way to back up a large database. So excluding files as mentioned. So can I exclude files? Yeah, you can. You can exclude files, but with Windows machines, it's different on the Windows client as it is to the Mac client. On the Windows client, you need to do what we refer to as include to exclude. As I mentioned, in Windows, you're creating a container. So when you want to exclude files, what you need to first do is, as I said a while ago, I would create my search location, say my C drive, and then I create my rule. Okay, so file types matching .jpeg will go into this container. So I include file types .jpeg into my container, and then what I do is I check the option to exclude any files that match this set. So then in theory what I'm doing is I'm including the files into the box, so I'm putting all my JPEGs into the box, and then I'm just marking that box and saying do not backup. Okay. Once the file is marked as being excluded, it won't be able to be selected in any other backup set where it might come up under. Okay, so under my images backup set, the file will show there, but it's not able to be backed up from there. And the same in the file system tab. And again, when I go through the walkthrough in a minute, you'll see that. So, just going to jump out of the PowerPoint now. Okay, and I'm going to open up the settings window. So, first thing I'm looking at here is my backup sets. Okay, as you can see from here, I have my default backup sets that are created here. And if I want to create a new backup set myself, I just right-click in the space down here, the white space, add a backup set. If I wish to edit any of the backup sets from here, or if I want to delete any of these backup sets, I can just right-click on them. Okay, I can edit the backup set, I can remove the backup set. If I want to see just even what's actually in the backup set, so what file types we're looking for, I can go to Edit Backup Sets. On the music there, I can see these are all the music type files that I'm looking for. Okay, so from MP3 right through to MP4, MPGA, and so on. Okay. Okay, so once you're happy and you know what you want to actually search for, so I'm going to go and I'm going to add a backup set, as we mentioned a while ago, and I'm going to look for JPEGs, or let's say MP3 files. So I'm going to name my backup set. Okay, so I'm going to do webinar. Then what I do is I add my rule down here. Okay, so from here I get the drop down include and exclude. Okay, so this is what I was mentioning a while ago. So you can include or exclude. But you have to remember when you're creating a backup set, and this is often where we see some mistakes being made by people new to the system when they're actually creating backup sets, is that here when we're creating a rule and from this drop down to include and exclude, we're creating to include and exclude what's going into the container. Okay, so that's what we remember. So when I say include file type here, okay, and I say .mp3, okay, or .doc, and hit OK. I guess I don't have any docs. Okay, let's try docx. Let's just go to mp3 because I know I have mp3. So we'll hit OK. and I forgot to do the key thing. Select the search location. I jumped ahead of a step. So I select my search location, hit OK, and it scans the files here. As you can see, it's checking all the files in my system to come back to me with a total of the MP3 files. So there now it's searching the entire C drive to see what files match this actual set. Okay, so I think some people might be having some visual issues. Is everybody still seeing? Is everybody seeing my my screen, my desktop, where I'm inside the Mozy client? Okay, so if anybody's not seeing my desktop, just let me know. Okay, perfect. So everybody's okay. So I'm saying that's going to scan my entire C drive for me. But again, I can customize that. If I only wanted to search particular drives on my machine, I could do that as well. Okay, and including those backups. So as we can see here now, okay, I now have 215. I have now of okay. Sorry, appears some people are still having issues with seeing the screen. Okay, so as I said there, so now what we can see here is that my .mp3 files are now in this backup set. So I have my list of files here. They're all, I can still select them or deselect them if I want to individually, but I have a gigabyte worth of MP3 files for 215 files. I also have them, they're also included up here in my music file, my music backup set. So if I go back in here, and I was to say, okay, I want those files excluded, but if I was to change here, this to excluded, what would happen? I'm going to is a big difference. So again, as I said, what we're doing here with this drop down, the include and exclude, is we're creating the rule for the container. Okay, so what we're saying is what we're going to put into the container. So as you can imagine, if I say exclude here, what it's going to do is it's going to exclude MP3 files from the container, but nothing else from my C drive. So as you can see there, I now have nearly 64 gigabytes of data and 214,000 files gone into that backup set. Okay, so it's a big difference. Okay, so coming from the 215 files I had what I was trying to do was create an exclusionary backup set. By doing the drop down exclude, I've actually done something incorrectly. What I've done now is I've said I'm creating a container with everything but .mp3 files. That may be okay if you want to back up absolutely everything else on your machine, but most often than not we don't, and it's a bit of a lazy workaround. So what we really want to do is is include these MP3 files, and then tick this option up here. If you don't see this on your own machine, okay, if you don't see this option here, what you need to do is come down here to your options section, down to advanced, and then tick this option here, show advanced backup set features. Okay, so then what that will do is we'll click on the webinar here, edit it, drop this down, make it include, and then what we're saying then is put the MP3 files into this container, and this container then I want it to be excluded from the final backup set. You will notice a slight difference here when it's completed. The backup set itself now has gone red to indicate that it's excluded. The files are no longer clickable, but also in the music here I can see when I scroll down that those files are also locked in here. And if I was using my file system tab, go to my music, I find that all these files in here are deselected as well. Okay, so that's how you create an exclusionary rule. You come in here, you add a backup set, you add a rule, you put into the container what you actually want to exclude, be it file type, be it size, last modified, created, by file name, by folder name. You can do all those. So you could do it by, if you want to do it by particular size of files, you can say include files that are less than 5 kilobytes. Okay? Source location C drive, hit OK. That'll populate a backup set for me with files less than 5 kilobytes. Okay, so there's quite a lot. So there's 90,000 files there for not an awful lot of overall size, 156 megs. And if I didn't see it necessary to back up those ones, I could exclude them by simply now going back in and ticking the option that we went to the Advanced Options tab for. Hit OK. And once I click off it, that file has gone red and those files are no longer selectable for backup. Okay, so that's how we would do an exclusion. So if there is any particular files that you don't want to be backed up, you can do it that way if you're using backup sets. Backup sets are great, as I say, for grouping files together. So for example, my presentations one here, if we edit that, that's searching my C drive, which is the only drive on my machine, and it's searching for all these PowerPoint extensions or various presentation software extensions. Now, if you use a particular software and if you're using a particular software and it's not listed there, then you can always come in here, edit yourself, and put in the file extension. Okay. Okay. So if anybody is not seeing the screen, I do apologize. I'm not aware of why certain people are seeing and why others aren't. Maybe something to do with the connection when we set up the session. But I will be sending this recording out to everybody that's on today's session. So don't worry if you're not seeing it. I will be sending this out. Okay. So as I was saying, you can add in your own extension here. So that's just what it's searching for, the types of files it's searching for, and it searches my entire C drive. Why is that an advantage to me? Well, it's simple. It allows me to create a PowerPoint, save it, close out, go about my other business on my computer on my day-to-day, and that file, because it matches this backup set and it's in this search location, will be picked up for backup. So I never have to come back into Mozy settings and select that individual file. So every time I create a new PowerPoint, I'm not having to come back into Mozy and selecting it to backup. It's matching the search location for my backup set, and it's matching the file type, so it gets backed up. Okay, so this comes back to being set and forget. Okay, so we set it once, and we don't have to go back in there adding in files or worrying about files getting added in. So it's done once you select your backup set for your types of files, and you go away, and you can go away and not worry about it. Okay, and also you can use it for exclusionary. File system tab, again, it's dependent on if you want to use this or not. Okay, so there is a couple of options with the file system tab. If you do select a file here in the backup sets, if you do select the backup sets like my documents, the files that are in there on the right hand side, okay, they will also be selected in here in the file system tab. It doesn't mean that you're using double the space or anything like that. It's just showing you that they are selected. So if I was to deselect a file in the backup sets tab, so if I was to select this file here, it would get deselected in here as well. If I deselect a file in the file system tab, it gets deselected in the PowerPoint or in the backup sets tab as well. So it's just showing you in both locations that the file is selected. It's not using double the amount of space. Okay. You will notice that in the file system tab you have these grayed out checkboxes on some, and in others you have a fully white background. Okay. So what that comes from, okay, so is if you hover over when it happens, okay, so if you hover over to here, you can actually see the files that are being selected in here. So I'm just going to open up my desktop there. So here we have my desktop. So it'll tell you here what's actually happening. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to deselect this entirely, and then I'm going to select it again. Okay, so what you see here, okay, is I've gotten, on these folders here, I've gotten a white background here on the checkbox, and I have a green check mark on the folder. So what that means is that everything is selected within the folder, okay? Everything is selected within the folder that can be selected. Notice these ones can't be selected because they're locked from my backup sets, as we went through a while ago, the backup sets we created. And anything new that goes into that into that folder or that location, that search location, will be added to the backup. Okay, so if I come down here, these files, all these files are selected, and because of this green check mark, so as it says there, look, all the items in this folder will be backed up. New items in this folder will be backed up as well. If I was to deselect all these files in here, the folder itself is selected, okay, and I still have that green check mark. So that means anything going forward that's added in there will still get backed up. If, on the other hand, I was to go in here and select all these files, again, I've selected all the current files in the folder, but I don't have that little green check mark there. That just means that all the files within the folder currently are selected, but any new files added in at a later date will not be backed up. Okay, so if you are using the file system tab and you do want all files, like, you know, if you are going to be using a particular, if you're saving your stuff to particular folders and stuff like that, and you do want new things to be backed up, make sure that you select the entire folder first so that you get that little green check mark. And then if there's any files in there currently that you do not want backed up, just deselect them. They get deselected, they won't be backed up, but you still have this little green check mark here on the folder. Okay, so that any files going to be added in later, at a later date, will be actually backed up. Okay, so that's just the file system tab. The only other thing on that for server users is the ability here to add network shares. Okay, so you add your network share, you put in your share location. If you have a username and password for your share, if it's already mapped, you can get it from the drop down here, and then you hit OK. And that just allows you to back up files on a network share. It doesn't, however, allow you back up open files on a network share. Okay, so that's it for the walkthrough. If there's anything I've gone through in today's session that you would like to ask questions about, or you would like me to go back over something, or maybe go into more detail on anything we've covered, then I will leave the last half an hour open to any questions on today's session. And for those who had any problems viewing today's session, I will be sending out the recording to everybody. Okay. Okay. Hi, Michelle. Okay, so your question. Okay, so to answer your question, so Michelle's question is, if I deselect a file in the File System tab, but it's included in a backup set being backed up, would the file be backed up? The answer is no, because you're deselecting it. If you deselect it in one location, it gets deselected in the other as well. Okay, so they just mirror each other for our benefits, just so we can see it if we're using a backup set. So for example, if I find a file there for my desktop, and we'll find PDF. So we'll deselect this PDF here. We'll just check. Okay, so there's that file. If I deselect it from in here in the File System tab. Okay, so I've deselected there from the File System tab. Come back in here to my word processing documents, and it's deselected there as well in the backup set. Okay, so that's just it's only meant it's selected in both just to show you, so that if you want to use backup sets, you can use backup sets. If you want to use the File System tab, you can use that too. But if you deselect it in one, it gets deselected from the other. No problem, Michelle. So, there any other questions? Okay, great. So if there's no other questions from anybody, or if you're happy and you have no questions yourself, we will finish up the session there. I will continue answering any other questions that do come in. But for those who do not have any more questions, thanks for joining today. We will have another webinar the second last Wednesday of July. Okay, so Barbara, just in terms of, you mean the settings window here? This settings window that I have on view here is actually from the client. So it's down here in the Systems tab. If you right-click on it here, open up Settings and More Settings. That will open up the view that you're seeing there. But this is from the client-side application. It's not the one that we sign into online. Okay, so just let me know if you have any further follow-up to that question, Barbara. Caroline, if we don't, Caroline, I'm just reading your question now. Okay, Caroline, if you have any questions or you need any assistance with setting up your settings, or if you have any queries about them, individual things as you're going along, you can contact support. If you go to support.mozy.com, on the My Support section, you can log in there with your actual credentials. From there, you can activate a live chat, or you can open an email case. So I'll just show you there. So support.mozy.com. And just in My Support there. And you can log in directly here. So that will take you into your support page, and from there you'll get your support ID up here, and you can chat live now, or you can create a new case. Okay? No problem at all, Caroline. Okay, so everybody, if there's no more questions, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you very much for joining. We will have our next session on the second last Wednesday of July, and that will be at the same time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Again, thank you very much for joining today and taking the time to stop by my session.